The World Cup in Qatar for 2022 is just a couple of weeks away now, and that should be a moment where we start to get excited for truly the best competition in football. Kicking back your feet, getting out your alcoholic beverage of choice, and getting ready to fight with your significant other over the remote control because they want to watch season 17 of Love Island. Not chilling in -4-degree heat with a hot chocolate in your hand. But it turns out the weather conditions are far from the worst problem going into this tournament, because with concerns over the treatment of certain groups in Qatar, a still seemingly massive lack of accommodation for fans wanting to visit the country, and an increasing number of injuries to high-profile players due to the build-up of fixtures to make a Winter World Cup possible, this tournament is about to be an absolute car crash.
While they have huge plans for their tournament, there are also big controversies that are almost impossible to ignore.
Now we rewind back to 2010, around about December time, and FIFA are deciding who's going to host the 2018 and 2022 editions of the World Cup. A number of European nations go for 2018, famously England, but we lose out to Russia. But in 2022, it gets a little bit more global. Australia, Japan, South Korea, and the United States all launch bids, some of which having already hosted a World Cup, of course. But in and amongst all of those traditional names from a footballing sense were the small Gulf nation of Qatar, a country that's never qualified for a World Cup before, a country which probably back then didn't even really have a proper domestic league that European players went to, and we all know what happens next.
The winner to organize the 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
Now, I don't need to tell you what came about in the backlash of this decision. Sepp Blatter lost his job, there was confirmed corruption involved in the entire thing, but hey, we're doing a World Cup in the Middle East. Now, obviously that brought around immediate problems like the heat, hence why we are playing this tournament in the winter. But now, as we approach literally just weeks before the tournament's about to start, there's still key issues. We've got the lack of accommodation for fans at this point in time. Back in March, there were only 30,000 hotel rooms in the entire country, yeah? Now bear in mind around 1.2 million people are expected to be going to the competition, either because they're working with the teams, because they're players themselves, because they're sponsors, or because they're just fans going and attending the game. As of October the 4th, there's now 117,000 hotel rooms, and they're hoping that there's going to be 130k before the tournament starts. But there's 1.2 million people, and the accommodation itself just isn't very good. Here's a delightful picture from Qatar's official website suggesting what, the pop-up accommodation's gonna look like. Here's what it actually looks like. Mate, this is Fire Festival all over again. It's gonna be on fire because you can't tell me these things have air conditioning. These lot are gonna be going on a holiday to shipping containers. Wake up a little bit too late. You're gonna end up in Bangladesh, bro. Oof, yeah, that was a good sleep. Yo, my neck's feeling a little bit better, right? Wait, hang on a second. Other sites look like caravan parks instead. I'm going to a World Cup, not Centre Parks. What is this? There's probably better living conditions at Centre Parks, I can't even lie. Apparently some fans are being offered free tickets or free accommodation, maybe even free travel if they give good reviews and are positive about the country. I'm shameless. Here's your boy logging into Yelp to type a review saying I didn't die so I can get my free tickets to Senegal v Ecuador. For a nation that has so much money, so much resources, to see that so many people are going to be sleeping in just white tents in the middle of a desert is just wild to me. If I wanted to sweat out in the wilderness outside in a tent whilst people in the local area are getting completely shafted, I'd go Glastonbury. Even where England are staying supposedly isn't completely finished. Areas outside are still being built and we're going to be arriving there in 2 weeks. The iconic unicorn inflatable's not going to have quite the same presence here. Declan Rice is going to be asked to be the group's entertainment because there's no TV installed yet.
Rice, baby.
Phil Foden's gonna have a difficult time explaining to the women that he's brought back why his supposed king-sized bed is actually a sandbag.
I promise, and even it's been a weird these past few months.
We're gonna have to send out carrier pigeons to know what else has happened in our group. Ben White's not happy with the hotel workers, and it's not hard to see why.
Shit.
Where's Gareth Southgate gonna store his 14 backup right backs? It's just a state, man. I think in terms of team's accommodation, it will be finished in time. But for poor fans traveling out there, I mean, England fans traveling halfway across the world to sleep in a tent, there will be a big culture shock for England fans, especially as well when they arrive in Qatar. From a social element, obviously, there'll be no drinking, and apparently one-night stands are outlawed as well. So for a nation of alcoholics, this is gonna be a tricky one. Look, listen, I have no explanation when a Qatari judge asks me what happened.
Well, you know, it was just a heat of the moment thing, and obviously I massively regret it.
Phil Foden's gonna be in a similar situation when he rings up that bird from Iceland. Look, Phil might end up being spooked here. Kyle Walker's gonna feel very betrayed when his Man City teammate isn't wanting to get involved in one of his parties.
And you're an adulterer
I need to
when
take-
you had, excuse me,
I need to take
and you're an
this.
adulterer.
Trent Alexander-Arnold fuming when he finds out Snapchat's banned over there. And it's not just English players that are going to find this difficult. Mauro Icardi might not be going with Argentina anymore, but if he does, he'll want to be careful. Bondanara's inserting some kind of one-night stand deal into his contract and getting him set up out there. Police over there aren't going to be believing Alvaro Morata when he explains that he didn't finish as per usual, so it doesn't count.
You're taking the piss. Please leave.
And that's just if any of them actually make it to the tournament. Are you seeing how many players are getting injured in the build-up to this one? I know that, you know, the nature of football is that you're going to get players getting hurt and missing, you know, important tournaments. We've had it before. There's been players who go off crying because they know they're missing a World Cup. They know they've just pulled their hamstring and the tournament starts in 35 minutes. But to this extent, with 2 weeks still to go, I'm not entirely sure we've seen it before. Diogo Jota, Paulo Dybala, Ben Chilwell, Reece James, N'Golo Kante, Pedro Neto, Gini Wijnaldum, Paul Pogba, well, he's always injured, Theo Hernandez, Timo Werner, Kyle Walker and Calvin Phillips are doubts, Pepe, Dani Olmo, Luca Digne, Mikel Oyarzabal, even Heung-min Son might miss a little bit of the action after a facial fracture. I forgot to actually explain my point here, and that is that obviously with the extreme amount of games and stupidly congested fixture list that teams and players have had to deal with in the build-up to this tournament, to accommodate for a month where they can't play in like domestic competitions, you are seeing more of those injuries, I feel, and it's leading to more big names missing out on the tournament, which can never be a good thing. How can Jurgen Klopp expect Darwin Núñez to press for 268 days straight?
For me, I can't do it.
You can! You can do it, you can!
But I think overall, the absolute most serious problem with this entire tournament is the safety of certain demographics in even traveling out there at all, and what it represents to have a major tournament like the World Cup in a country such as this. You know, for example, there's been some absolute horror stories coming out about people from Qatar who come under the LGBTQ+ umbrella and what police out there have done to them. Protesters have been arrested already as recently as last week in the build-up to this, and FIFA are out here saying, oh, let's just like not get involved in the ideologies. You can't tell teams not to talk about politics when politics is the reason we're even having a World Cup in Qatar in the first place. Corruption, money, the desire to have some sort of major tournament in the Middle East, international relations. That's the reason we're here. Like, do you genuinely think Sepp Blatter saw 4.3 billion square meters of sand and thought, yeah, safe, that's a good playing surface for a World Cup? Did he really think that that turf was fully watered? You wonder why you've not got players coming out as gay. We're going to a country for the biggest tournament in the sport, in a country where it is quite literally illegal. I'm concerned about clashes over there. I'm concerned about people that are going to go and protest over there and are going to find themselves getting imprisoned for outrageous amounts of time. The World Cup is a celebration of world football, but it's also a celebration of world beliefs, multiculturalism, and people coming together to celebrate identity. That cannot be done in this country. That is so restricted that it is beyond belief. And where's the support for the shambolic human rights in the build-up, in the building of the stadiums? You've got workers with absolutely zero, practically negative working conditions, overworked to the point of a loss of life. For football, it stinks. It absolutely stinks on every single level. Whether or not they manage to magic up enough like underdeveloped accommodation for fans, whether players get air conditioning, whether or not your favorite players are even going to be fit to play in this competition, it all pales into insignificance because this tournament, this competition will be looked back on in years to come as one that should not be allowed to happen again. And that's why it's most likely going to end up in disaster. But what do you think about a World Cup being in Qatar? You know, I'm all for the pinnacle of this sport reaching areas of the globe that it hasn't before. This isn't football elitism. I'm not saying that a country that's traditionally not good at football should be banned or should be overlooked when it comes to hosting things. Having a tournament in Africa, for example, in South Africa, was like revolutionary. Having one again there would be phenomenal once more in Oceania, even in other areas of the Middle East. But Qatar just is not ready for that sort of thing, and it shows. If you enjoyed this video though, feel free to slap a like on it, and of course subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @theofficialfng on Twitter and on Insta. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.